little bit since this group has met. So we, in our last meeting was in workshop forum. We are in full meeting forum tonight. And so we want interactive discussion, so please jump in. And if I miss you, just please jump in and we'll do our best to keep the conversation moving in this virtual format. Watch mics and mute, and we'll help you manage that as well. And then note that all votes that we take tonight do need to be roll call votes, which adds a little length onto our meeting, and we do have a couple of votes to take this evening. Best practices, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Recommend that you reach down into the bottom corner of your Zoom tray and shut off your video before you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll say the pledge together. And before I call the meeting to order, any logistics questions before we get started?
Mara, could we have, if people want to speak, raise your hand and say your name, because it's sometimes hard to see who's talking. So it makes it easier for me to keep track of who's saying what. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that reminder. Any other logistics items before I call the meeting to order? All right, not hearing any, I will call this meeting to order. And Karen, could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Huntash.
Here.
Commissioner Husnick.
Here.
Commissioner Finneman.
Here.
Commissioner Lorge. Commissioner Erickson.
Here.
And President Bain.
Here. And ask all of you to shut your video if you wish, and please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Wait just a minute. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. We're going to continue these remote meetings. I'm going to consider having a guest come and do the pledge for us, because the sequencing and cadence always gets a little off, but thank you. Still an important part of our meeting. Members of the EDA, you have an agenda before you. I will entertain a motion to approve that agenda or any changes.
I move to approve. Mark Finneman.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second from Member Huntash. All those in favor, Karen, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yep. Commissioner Roberts.
Pardon me. Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Huntash.
Yes.
Commissioner Husnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Finneman.
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
President Bain.
Aye. Agenda is approved. First item, number 5 on your agenda, is to approve the meeting minutes from March 9th. That was our EDA meeting. Is there a motion to approve or any changes?
I would move to approve. Finneman.
Second.
Okay.
And a second from Member Erickson. And Karen, could we have a roll call vote, please?
And Commissioner Roberts.
Aye.
Commissioner Huntash.
Abstain. I was absent.
Commissioner Husnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Finneman.
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson.
Aye.
President Bain.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, approve the minutes from the April 27th EDA workshop. I will entertain a motion or any changes.
Let's make a motion to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Husnick. Is there a second?
Finneman, second.
And the second from Finneman, and Karen, one more roll call vote, please.
Sure. Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Husnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Huntash,
Abstain?
Commissioner Finneman,
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson,
Aye.
President Bain.
Aye. Motion approved. Our next item on the agenda this evening is a resolution to accept a donation for the Downtown Beautification Group from the Hallberg Family Foundation. Dan, do you want to tee this one up for us?
Sure. President, members of the EDA, before you is Resolution 05-2620-01, which formally accepts a donation from the Hallberg Family Foundation for $2,000 for the Downtown Beautification Group project. In speaking with members of the group, it sounds like this money has been earmarked for public art or wave additional, like Welcome to Forest Lake signage. So by accepting this resolution, we'll put that money into an account that is will be designated for that purpose. But this is a donation for the Hallberg Family Foundation to kind of help with some public art in the downtown area. Staff recommendation is to approve the resolution and accept the donation at this time.
Finneman, could I just ask a question?
Please.
So once this money is received, I assume through the EDA, then the Downtown Beautification Group would make recommendations to the EDA as to how they'd like to spend that?
Yeah, as far, I mean, there was, from what I gathered from conversations with the group, was that there was intention behind this money. It wasn't just give $2,000 to spend on anything. There was like they wanted it earmarked for or purposed for public art or a Welcome to Forest Lake sign is what I gathered. So that's what we would use it for in the future. When we get a project like that on the table, we would use this money for something to that effect as one comes forward.
Again, are we depending on that particular group to bring forward that particular idea?
I mean, I think we'd work with them to see, to make sure it all fits within, you know, the plans for downtown. You know, they'd have a seat at the table. I don't think they'd be the driver behind it, but they'd have a seat at the table having a conversation about it.
So that would be an agenda item for the EDA in the future, and we would discuss it, and they would be participants. I wanted them to have the authority of being the Downtown Beautification Group, bringing forward their ideas. That's I was curious.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely would be. It wouldn't happen outside of that. That group would be as part of that conversation the whole time.
Other questions related to the resolution before us? Maybe just as a point of related topic as it relates to the Downtown Beautification Group, we have talked about, you know, this started off as a pilot project of the EDA, but we have talked about ongoing funding needing to come from public works funds, and that this is, you know, as it related to the specific funding of the flowers and the planters and the other items that are part of that Downtown Beautification Group, we desired that to be a budget line item as part of public works beyond the initial funding that was and support that was done by the EDA. I think because this donation has some restrictions around it, around its use, and because the EDA still, you know, we'll talk in a future agenda item here yet this evening about next steps for the downtown committee. I think it makes sense for this to be an accepted donation of the EDA, but just know again that this intent is still that those routine dollars related to the maintenance of those efforts become a standalone budget item as part of the overall city rather than an EDA item. Which I think is consistent with what our plans have been around those efforts. Happy to entertain any other questions on this topic or an entertain or a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, this is Husnick, and I'd make a motion that we accept resolution number 05-20-20-1 with acknowledgement and gratitude.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
And I will second
Commissioner
it.
Huntash.
I
We
will
have a
second.
motion, a second. Any further discussion on this item? I'll just emphasize with gratitude and acknowledgement. Thank you very much. And Karen, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Huntash,
Aye.
Commissioner Husnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Finneman,
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson,
Aye.
President Bain.
Aye.
If you can hear
Motion
me,
approved.
this is Jenny. Can you hear me?
Oh, Jenny,
We can.
didn't know you popped in there.
I'm on, so, and I vote yes, aye.
Excellent. Thanks for jumping in.
Yep.
Okay, motion approved. We are moving on to item number 8, which is an update on the business videos that we had discussed in our last workshop. I believe we've got a world premiere. I like that title. Dan and Paul, do you want to give us an update?
Absolutely, President, members of the EDA. I'll give you an update on the business video, and I'll turn it over to Paul to kind of give a little bit more on the methodology he used to kind of create the first video. And then we'll do the world premiere of the first business video. If you recall, a few meetings ago, we discussed the downtown initiative, and one component of that was to offer video services, video production services to local businesses. We partnered with LATV and the Forest Lake Chamber of Commerce for the creation of these videos. When we launched the Digital Downtown Initiative, part of the sign-up form was they could see if they were interested in requesting a video. We had a total of 20 come back, so 20 businesses are currently interested in having a video produced for them. However, kind of given the conditions that everybody sees right now due to COVID-19, we kind of wanted to wait until we got to more of a normal setting within the local businesses. So we started launching started producing those videos. Again, they'll have a longer shelf life if they're produced in more normal settings versus right now, which is sort of everybody's really responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we did want to create a kind of a gap fill video to kind of show the cities, these businesses' response to the pandemic. And that is what the video that will be shown here in a moment is. The production schedule that we're kind of tentatively looking at will launch probably later in the summer or early in the fall. Again, those dates are going to be sort of flexible, just kind of depending upon what happens, you know, based on the COVID-19, where that is, kind of business response, et cetera. But that's kind of our penciled in start time for that. We'll kind of go back through, take a look at what's needed from a production standpoint and get timelines together so we can get those videos produced in a fashion. With that, I'd be happy to introduce Paul Peterson, who actually did the video production behind this, and have him introduce the video, and we'll kick off the world premiere.
Thank you, Dan. That's pretty much summed it up for the most part. Yeah, initially we kind of talked about highlighting businesses, telling their stories, which would just kind of help the community. And so I got together with Nan as soon as we finished our meeting, and she started sharing with me some of the stories of what these businesses were going through and how they were being kind of innovative on how they were getting through this. And that kind of sparked the interest, and we decided it might be a better idea to kind of tell those stories of these people are getting very innovative to stay alive. And so that's kind of where we decided to go off with it, at least on this first one, because we discussed it, you know, we discussed talking about highlighting businesses, and nobody's normal. So how do you make a video that's relevant and helps anybody a month from now? So that will probably be where we go in the future. I even, when you're talking about your downtown beautification group, I mean, that sounds like a really cool video to talk about how you're helping to make downtown more welcoming, and even, you know, highlight your thinking behind projects and stuff like that. So in the future it can go anywhere, but that's just kind of where this first one started off, with Nanette sharing with me stories because she knew all these businesses and she started telling them, and it was great. So she organized it all just spectacularly. I had to do nothing for that. All these people, we set it up in the new studio we built in the high school. We did it all green screen, so they could just walk in the door, walk right to where they were going to be interviewed. She would stand 10 feet away from them by the camera. I'm standing in the corner. They would come in, they would answer questions. She would get them to cry a little bit, and then they would leave. And her and I discussed a little bit beforehand, kind of how to get the stories out of people, but she had no problem. These were very different ways of attacking this, but all very creative ways of attacking the problem that they're going through. So I thought it came out really good. So then I just set up, or Dan again set up time for me to go. I took one day and went and shot a little bit of B-roll at each business to kind of highlight what they're talking about. And then I used my phone and just shot a little bit of their store, made it look like kind of like they're sitting in their store as best I could. And that's where it's at.
So the only thing you actually shot in store was the B-roll. Like, I watched all of those interviews and assumed you were just on site. That's great.
No, and we actually initially talked about going to them, but then to keep safe, the amount of gear I have to bring to make it look good to each place, it kind of seemed crazy. So I thought, we just finished this gorgeous studio. Let's just try it. So no, they all came to me and it was scheduled very bam, bam, bam. They came in a half hour apart. We did them and they went out. So it went really, really well.
Great use of that space.
Now, hopefully this works, but I'll start the video now. So cross my fingers that technology won't fail me now.
We were sitting at home. Alex was with me. The boys were with me. The boys were just sitting on the couch. You know, they were none the wiser. They had their toys out and everything. And, you know, we're listening to Governor Walz declare that was the last day that restaurants were allowed to have dine-in customers.
That whole week was very scary. And it was just watching the news and seeing what's going on, and people aren't coming through the door, and immediately people were afraid to come in.
Certainly paying attention to the news around the world and all that kind of stuff, seeing that things were moving around and it was likely to end up here.
The media was starting the hype of, you know, more COVID in their newscasts, more and more.
Before the governor came on and told everybody to stay at home, that I had already been thinking for weeks what might happen, how it might affect us.
The second time when it really, really hit me was the day when I opened up the store with my crew and I didn't put the chairs down at the tables. To have people come in and then to not have them stay, to not have them sit. I was not okay with it. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't okay with it. I wanted to put those chairs down so bad.
I mean, you go through all the emotions, let me tell you. But that first week is definitely panic. And what should I do? I have a very small staff of 4. And my first thought was them, you know, wanting to keep them on, but knowing for me, I can't keep a staff if I can't pay them.
We had come back from a RE/MAX convention out in Vegas. We were actually preparing for another event in the Wisconsin Dells, thinking we're all fine, and the night before the call comes in. We're canceling the event. They're restricting all travel for all of our trainers in the company. Oh boy, this stuff's about to get real.
On the first day, which happened to be St. Patrick's Day, we went from a sit-down restaurant to a to-go restaurant.
There is the thinking that I do about my family, kids, grandkids, all that sort of stuff. And then there's the employees and, you know, what are we going to do? What's the right thing to do? Obviously, there's no playbook.
You know, just tried to reiterate to people that this is what we have to do to keep people safe.
Your first thoughts go to your employees. I held on to them for that week and then decided by that next Friday to actually lay them off. But that was the hardest thing for me to do.
Obviously, we're all fully aware, and us in real estate more than most, how we had that downturn in the market in the mid-2000s. Unfortunately for me, I went through a great state of depression. I was diagnosed, clinically depressed, and I stayed in that state for about 4 years. That was a dark part in my life, and so I didn't want to return there. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with my wife this morning, and she was nervous. She said when this came in, she was watching me to see if any of that would return, and she's thankful that it hasn't, that I've been very positive.
When you sign up to own a small business, you don't sign up for medical pandemics. You don't sign up for people not wanting to interact with other people because of what they may have.
There were some employees that were devastated, completely confused, didn't know if this was going to put us out of business, didn't know how it was going to affect their job, if they were going to have a job anymore.
Communication was the first thing we started working on, is how do we make sure that we keep people up to speed with what's going on? What do we expect of them? We had some areas where we had to modify work settings a little bit to get people spread out a little bit. Any office people, anybody that could work off of a laptop at home, we've got all those folks out working at home instead of coming into the facility.
I remember I woke up really early that day when I made that first post. You know, we can't have you here with us right now. It's kind of heartbreaking. I needed to let people know that we were still going to be around.
So immediately we started to do live videos on Facebook, lots of different posts of our clothes. And how that works is we do a live video and then we do sales off of that. So they comment on the style that they want, the size that they want, if they want it shipped. And we immediately also did curbside pickup right away. The only sales that we're getting right now are from our live videos. It's been difficult.
The faucet shuts off today. Real estate's going to start seeing the effects of it going forward. I think there are solutions to get these businesses open, let them run their business to some capacity. It's different. It won't look the same. But by letting them do that, we'll have a lesser impact on our future economy, because I think that is what I worry about the most.
Some people are scared to death. I could get sick. What's going to happen? We didn't want to have any of those people feel like they had to show up for work. We want them to do what they're comfortable with. We've got other people who are just as afraid of not having a job and not having a check next week, and they're equally as severe and concerned. And so we tried to figure out how do we make sure that we support everybody.
It was super duper freaky to realize that sales had dropped 60 to 70%. There is no way to prepare for that. If my husband and I can't keep our businesses afloat, then that's going to create stress that we're not prepared to handle and that our kids clearly aren't prepared to handle.
We essentially had 10,000 transactions in the pipeline ready to close. So you could imagine if we shut down real estate, that would affect 20,000 families.
I've been in the business for 4 years. And we just moved to our new location in July, right downtown. It's really kind of the first time that I saw some good success with the business. And then all of a sudden, boom. So it's like, oh, I just was almost there, and then this happened. So, that was pretty tough.
The shutting down of the bar and restaurant instantly lopped 40% off our revenue because of the bar. We set some goals right away. I mean, day one, that our goal was to see if we could sell 60% of our normal food sales, and we've exceeded that. So we've had days where we've actually sold more than we have in the past.
But then, amazingly enough, we had these days where we were surpassing sales that we did on the same day a year ago.
We've got customers that are in dire need of our work to fight the COVID-19 virus. We build plastic injection molds, all of the test kits, the PPE, some of the visors and things like that, the face masks, the N95 masks that 3M makes, we build tools for them. We had to kind of prioritize things, make sure that we're working on the most important stuff first.
We've come up with a lot of creative ways to show properties and not expose people. If you're absolutely worried about going out to look at properties, we can actually do virtual showings. We can send an agent out ahead of time by themselves to film the home, and we're virtually with our client at the same time, pointing our phone around the home, going over it. A lot of our agents are carrying gloves and they're carrying the hand sanitizers, and they're the ones that are opening and closing the doors throughout the home, and the client's not. We're wearing masks if they feel like that.
There are many ways that we will get the bagels to the people. For the first time ever since we've owned Big Apple, we are doing residential delivery, but we also have our mobile app. It makes online ordering super duper easy, and they can request for a delivery or they can request for carry out. If they don't want to come in the store, there's a space for people to leave a note that says, curbside pickup. And then I also set up a pickup shelf, and it's right when they walk in the door. They can't miss it. And they just look for their name, they grab it, and they go, and they're out within a minute. It's another way to accommodate those reasonable fears of not wanting to be in a place for too long, or just wanting to grab it and go, to have as little contact as possible.
We have been practicing, all the things that we're supposed to be doing, the disinfecting. We are going to be wearing masks. We're going to ask our customers to wear masks. We're going to have a sanitation station when you first walk in. We generally leave the clothes in the room if they've been tried on for 24 hours. And then we have a separate rack and we steam everything at a high temperature. And then we are just arranging our front desk to be a little bit different so there's more distance between us and the customer.
We treat every phone order as if it's a reservation. When we tell you it's going to be ready at 6:15, it's going to be ready at 6:15. When you pull in after placing your order, you tell us what time you'd like to come, and then you pull into a numbered parking spot. You give us a call and say, I'm in spot number 2, and then we can bring it out. And people have loved it. We've gotten lots of great feedback on our whole process.
I have my immediate family that's relying on me. I have my work family that's relying on me. We need to do a good job. We need to get things right. If we underestimate the danger, somebody could be sick, somebody could die. Certainly don't want to be responsible for that. So we got to make sure that we're trying to do the very best we can to get it right. And I think the truth is that nobody's got the right answers.
If someone would have told me that I would have left teaching to help run a bakery, I would have told them they were nuts. And I fell in love with that place the moment I stepped through the door to start working and helping out there, which was almost 5 years ago.
I don't think people are going to be wanting to go to these big malls and be around a lot of people right now. I know that our place is going to be that place to be safe, more one-on-one, not a lot of people. So that's what I'm thinking is, as the optimistic silver lining.
We just really need to listen. We need to be a better listener than we ever have, hearing what they're saying and really trying to offer solutions for them. We create a lot of good friendships with these people, so we really want to help them out. We really want to help them get out of those dark places. Because I certainly lived there way too long, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
I love my store. I love my employees. I love my customers. I love the products I love talking to people. I get so excited when brand new people come into the store.
I can't wait to hear the sounds, hear the hustle and bustle, the murmur, the clanking of the plates, the things like that. It's going to be cool.
I get sad when I think about my customers because we have a lot of great relationships with them and we miss them. So we can't wait to get back to normal, whatever that is.
We're going to survive this somehow or another. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but we're going to figure out how to make things work, and we'll come out probably stronger at the end of this whole thing in the end. I've got a good team of people, and they're doing the right stuff and trying to get their work done as best they can under the circumstances, and we'll hope for a better day.
Wow.
Great job.
Thank you. And again, that was just to try and start with. I mean, you got to show they got scared, and then they tried some things, and then at the end they're hopeful, and just kind of to show. And I just think that was a kind of a cool, Nan started telling me the stories they were doing on Stella's instantly 2 weeks before anything even happened. He had his parking lot mapped out and figured out a way that his employees could do this safely, So as I started hearing all this and going, all right, this is kind of cool. Let's just share that. These people are doing neat things. So that's all. And yes, in the future, they'll be different, but that seemed like a cool story to tell right now. And it was kind of the world premiere, but I put it up last Friday and we've got about 1,500 people that have watched it so far. So it's not quite the world premiere, but sorry.
Before we talk about other videos and in the future, Nan, as you see how this first one's come together, what are your thoughts on how that gets best used by the chamber? I'm interested in the EDA members' thoughts on how that particular film gets used. And then obviously the next question is going to be what else should we do next, and how do we take that ability that's been demonstrated? But I'm interested in just this first one on thoughts on utilization of that, and maybe any feedback that you've heard on how we might use that to feature what's happening in the community.
Did you say Nan or Dan?
Nan, I was intending you first, but I'm interested also in certainly Dan's feedback or other members of the EDA's feedback on this gem. What should we do with this gem? And then we can talk about what do we do next.
Well, I shared it, of course, with the, once it was on LA TV, I'm like, okay, I'm going with it. I needed a positive that day, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going with it. And so I put it on the chamber Facebook page and sent it out to the 5 individuals that participated, and just, you know, again, that story would never have been told without their willingness. And, you know, I pushed them really to get to, you know, he told me to push them so that they would cry. So I did. And so, you know, it really, I'm just so proud of this piece because I feel like it highlights such amazing, I mean, you know, all of you, all the business folks that are on this call and in our community. I mean, there's lots and lots of other stories, but I just am so proud of it. So with that, yes, it's already been making its rounds on Facebook. I'm going to be putting it up on our website as well. And each of the individuals has been sharing it as well, but I'm certainly open to, I really do feel like it's a feel-good story. I've shared it with Senator Housley as well, because I knew she'd be interested in this. And so I'll probably share it with the chamber community at large as well, because Paul did such a dang good job. You know, it's just too good not to share. So, but I'm open to other suggestions as well. So
Nan made it easy.
We're a good team. It was fun. It actually was, you know, Blake knows because I was there when, you know, with all the days of going and saying goodbye to folks as they close their doors, really does get a little taxing on one. I quit after Blake. I said, that's it. I'm not going anymore. He was my last one, face to face. But to have something that's so positive is just really a good shot in the arm. And the experience, you know, they came in and we had thought through every component of it so that we could still stay safe, right? And make sure that they had a good experience. And it was a definitely, I would say, those 2 days in the studio with Paul and these folks was the highlight of my last 2.5 months, whatever it's been. So,
and we did. So we sent maps to them all to show them the exact layout where they would walk in. We put giant signs outside. We told them all we were going to do to keep them safe. So there was no worry when they came in, and they knew it was kind of up to them. There was masks at the front door when they walked in if they wanted them. There was sanitizer. So just to make everybody kind of comfortable. And this is kind of one of those careful what you wish for. So I kind of coached Nan how to try and get stuff out of these people. Well, she got over 3 hours of answers out of them that I had to cut down to 10 minutes. And that was really kind of brutal because all of the answers were spectacular. And they went into great deal on, you know, details on a lot of things that was really hard to rip out. But, you know, I'm 4 edits in and it's still 25 minutes long. I'm going, this is just nuts. So it got brutal at the end there. But yeah, she did really good at getting them just to kind of open up. It was cool.
That's great. Any other questions of the group on or thoughts on what we should do with this particular video before we talk about creating some more, Judy? Go ahead.
So we can find this on the chamber site and then share it on our Facebook page?
Yep, it's on right now it's on LATV as well as the chamber.
Okay,
Facebook pages.
perfect.
And just a quick note, Jenny mentioned last meeting that podcast might be kind of good for realtors. And I did research that the next day, and that is completely set up and ready to go. So I set up a channel for LATV to upload them all to, and I went and bought the server or rented the server, whatever you call it. And so anytime they want to figure out how to record that, that can be a Zoom meeting, that can be come into the studio and you all sit on opposite sides of a table. It can be whatever people are comfortable, but you know, because like she was saying, real estate is changing every other day. So, and they have those conversations. So if you're interested in some kind of podcast thing, those are pretty easy to put out. You just limit yourself to the time you want to limit it to and do it. And it can be we can even do them live or just push them live an hour later. And that's an easy link to share. So if you're interested in that, I did set that up right after the last meeting.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, if we had businesses that were interested in recording a podcast, but just a little nervous have never done it before, don't know what to expect, do you have some, kind of the crash course podcast 101 that you can kind of coach folks through? 'Cause I think it's easier than people expect, but it's a new format, and just like new formats, people get nervous and aren't necessarily comfortable reaching out. Do you have some things that can kind of get people over that hump and
I do.
using that resource? Okay.
I do. I have tons, and it's very easy to make them. It's very hard to make them interesting. So I do have a lot of advice resources to show them. And if you just plan them well and bring in interesting guests and keep it on topic for the most part, you want to go off a little bit because that's funny. People think that's cool, but there's ways to keep it interesting and do it in a very strategic way that it's not tough. And I have tons of resources that I can send to people depending on the business they're trying to promote or what they're trying to do with it. Yes, I do. And again, that can be recorded. If they're nervous, they can do it on a Zoom meeting. You can do it on a conference call. It's going to sound like that. So that is what it is. If you come into the studio or we do it somewhere else, it can sound very high end, just kind of depending on how they want to do it. That's a little more work. So if you're going to do them a few times a week, you maybe don't want to go through that. If you want to just all log in and Zoom and talk about it and I record it and edit it really quick and throw it up, I can do that too. So
I think the challenging part of that media format is there's an audio production need that if you're able to fill that gap, I think whatever we can do to get the message out that that's an available technology. If there are segments where that is of interest and create some value, I think we should really market that and get the word out that that is one of the resources that is available with LATV. I just think people don't think about that. There's some interest level, but I think yeah.
The part that's hardest for me is what Nan knocked it out of the park with, is to get these people. I mean, within 3 days, she had them set up, coming in and scheduled. And if you do that, I can do the rest. That's the hardest part for me to go. I don't know these people. I don't know the message they want to tell. She already knew their stories and she just lined it up very quickly. So that's the toughest part, is just the organizational part. I can do all of the rest. That's not a problem.
Well, I've kind of taken us down this. Go ahead, Finn, go ahead. And I think you're on mute. Finn, are you on mute? Yeah.
Am I still on mute?
We hear you now.
Okay. When we talk future videos and then we talk podcasts, are we talking about the same thing?
You're not talking about the same thing. You can do a podcast as a video, yes. And I can do that just as well. I've got great setups for that. Those are a little more close quarters because we're filming them, but it's just an audio podcast that you can download off of iTunes or Amazon. And so I went and submitted the server I bought to those places. So it would just be, you could go onto iTunes and search out Lakes Area TV podcast, and the ones you're recording, we would categorize them and people could find them very quickly. They're just something you listen to on your phone when you're walking, or, I mean, I get in my car, my phone connects to my car and my podcast just starts. So, I mean,
I understand the distinction. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I have a tendency
I took us down the rabbit hole of, I took us down the rabbit hole of podcasts. Maybe let's bring the conversation back to videos and next steps. So I'm interested in thoughts on, so with that foundation that we set with this first video, thoughts on next steps on how do we turn this from a feature story about the community to a specific asset that's bringing some value to some Forest Lake businesses. Thoughts on what that might look like and how we might help prioritize that?
Well, I think we already have a list, so that helps. We have 20 that are interested. So it's I think with some guided conversation, the stories can be pulled out. Because I agree. The whole goal of this at the beginning wasn't to create COVID video, right, Dan? we just went that direction because is what it is right now. But even within that, we have lots of great stories that are not COVID related, that are just, that come up as I'm aware of lots of great stories that, so I think with some guided conversation, it would be really easy to come up with and I know the intention of those is much shorter, right, Paul? You don't want 20 hours of video.
Yes. Well, and also Dan and I talked a little bit earlier today, if you want to just talk relevance right now, people are wondering how the city's going to open. And so a video kind of showing how you're opening and what it's going to be like to go downtown might be kind of useful at this point. Again, that's going to date itself, but if we don't go too in depth, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, what does that mean right now? If I'm going to go to Home Depot, what does that mean right now? Just to kind of show people that are a little worried to go into town. If you've been locked up for 2 months, there's a lot of people, I guess, probably haven't even left, so. And I don't know if that's going to date itself very quickly, but that popped into our head of just something I'm sure people have questions about right now.
And I think just to kind of go to the point for like a long term, for like the actual individual businesses, is to try to create a story about how that business formed, what are they known for, kind of get to know the business owner. There's a couple of shows that I'll watch out of Wisconsin where a particular guy goes through downtown, these little small towns in Wisconsin, and kind of goes into the shop and says, what are you here for? What are you known for? And kind of highlights that business in about a 2-minute segment. And I think that kind of, for the business promotional video, kind of has it stays evergreen longer. So there's not so much like they'd be able to use that for a couple of years down the road, assuming they don't dramatically change their business model. But that requires some sort of new normal, or more of a normal business operating environment than we have now. By also looking at, if we have 20 businesses that are kind of signed up for this right now, we need to be able to produce these in a way that we're not going to take 2 years to get 20 business videos out. So trying to figure out 2 minutes, kind of I don't want to say cookie cutter where they're all following the same process, but a similar process. We can kind of really scale what that looks like. So we can say, if you're 7th in line, we can kind of give you an idea of when you're going to get your videos produced, just so we're not just sort of open-ending this out and having this project kind of lead for a long time. I think once all of those are done, those can all get rolled into sort of a highlight video for the city of Forest Lake, kind of highlighting a business community, which we could then take out more in that digital marketplace and promote us, have a better digital storytelling footprint. So that's sort of where I see this going longer term.
And if there's a way to prioritize something that's important, like right now, like I wish I knew the new name, but the Laker is about to reopen. That's a timely one to show people that don't know there's anything there. So if you can prioritize in that way a little bit, because that's relevant right now. And so I don't want to be the one that picks who gets what, but if there's certain businesses that right now this kind of matters a little more to them, that's one way to kind of go. And I would much rather just tell the story about the business and not about what they're going through right now. But that's more long-term, and that's a funner story to tell.
So Erickson here, question Paul, those 5 businesses that you did, is there anything in there where you can actually tell their story like you envision ultimately getting to, or is COVID so wound into that 20 hours of content that you got to kind of do them over if you're going to do those?
I would do those over. And the interviews themselves were half hour. I mean, that isn't that tough. So, I mean, that was just kind of tough because it was 5 separate ones, and we had a lot of questions, and they had a lot of passion behind their answers. They would, you'd ask them one question and they go on for 10 minutes, and I'm not going to stop them. But
right.
When you get 6 questions in and they've been talking for an hour, now it's like, okay. But yeah, that it would be a do-over, but I kind of anticipated that. You kind of have to know the story you're going to tell going into it, so the questions to get out of them. So
yeah, Dan,
I could shoot it in a way. I could shoot something in a way that in the future we get 2 things out of it. I mean, if I go into it planning that, yes, I could do that.
Yeah, Dan, is the vision that and using this as part of the digital downtown and that digital medium. I mean, did I hear you correctly that you kind of want to wait till you have a couple dozen of these done before we release it, or are we going to roll it out as it comes along?
I mean, I think individually they probably will warehouse somewhere like in the digital downtown. You can go click on the individual businesses, but I think once they're all done, roll them into more of a longer show, a longer form, so they can kind of go through and, compile them into a story. But individually, yeah, they could be housed in the digital downtown.
If you wanted to tie this into digital downtown, you could do a 5-minute restaurant segment, and I could just literally go in and ask 3 questions from each restaurant, shoot a little bit, and make one whole video about here's the 10 restaurants within 5 blocks of downtown. If you wanted to categorize it to kind of go with the website he put up. I mean, that's a quicker, easier way that if they know I'm coming at 10 o'clock, I got a shotgun mic, they can stand 8 feet away from me. It works quite well. And they know their questions ahead of time. I shoot a little B-roll, half hour later, go to the next business. That's doable.
Do we have the City of Forest Lake YouTube page, or what? I mean, what's the rollout on this? Like, how are we going to leverage it?
We just started our own YouTube page, just as a result of needing it for live streaming. So we're relatively new in that marketplace, or that kind of marketing aspect. I think once it's established that we would leverage it once we start getting content for it. So I mean, this is sort of a start in us getting that content created for the page. I mean, and obviously you want to put high quality content out there, which I think this video demonstrates that Paul does produce extremely high quality content, which it's captivating. He's a great storytelling. He does a great job of telling the story, which I think, will help draw people into that site once we get the content up.
And we put them on the TV channel, and we've also got close to 3,000 followers on our YouTube channel and 3,000 on our Facebook channel. And those branch off fairly quickly. Once they hit like the Forest Lake Happenings channel, the Chamber channel, they start to branch off pretty quick.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Say everybody, my internet just crashed. So I've still got audio. I'm just missing the video of everybody. So so please jump in for next steps on this conversation. I'm reconnecting here.
And I'll gladly help on any of these, looking over the list or ideas on stories. I'm all about it. So whatever we need to do, whatever we want.
Paul, Paul, is there anything that we can do to help you kind of maximize capacity here, or identify capacity, or help you expand capacity on doing more of these faster? I think certainly with a list of 20, we're comfortable that there's certainly a demand, and so I'm interested in your feedback on how do we best help you in meeting that demand.
Basically, just the organizational part of it. If everything is scheduled and I can just show up and film and schedule my edit dates, that helps a lot. Right now, I am getting slammed by schools. So everybody we're live streaming graduations, we're recording speeches for all of them. The next 2 weeks for me are just nonstop. But after that, yeah, it's just if somebody else, I can sit down with somebody or Zoom with somebody, whatever, and we plan out a project. And if they do all the logistics of it, and I just have to film and edit it, that helps immensely. I do not have another person that can do those parts, so that would have to be me. But as long as somebody else does all the planning part, it can go fairly quick.
And Nan, are you able to continue future videos to kind of tee up what you did in this first one of some of the logistics and some of the storyline? Are you able to help tee up that content?
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that. I probably have the contacts of those individuals anyway. And so, our system worked well this time. And I think we just rinse and repeat, right, Paul? I mean, it was.
Yeah. And I would love to turn this into putting out a message. If people want to come learn how to do this, come do a couple with us. I'll show you how, I have unbelievable materials to teach you how to tell a good story. I can teach you how to run a camera, about lighting and sound. If I can train other people to go do these, and then I just kind of oversee them, that would be great as well. Running a camera is not that tough. Editing the video is not that tough. To make it into a story is kind of tough. To light it well is kind of tough, but there's just little ways to teach people going into it. If you pre-plan it, what you're going for. I'm going for these 5 things about this, and this is what I'm going to tell. And you don't go shoot everything in sight. It can be streamlined fairly well. So I would love to put the word out to get people to come join me and learn how to do this on their own. Take my gear and go do it. You know, there's free editing software that's extremely high end that will run on anything but a Chromebook that they can just download and do it on their own. So, but I've had no luck with that in the past. So we're just going to throw it out there.
Yeah,
I have
it's
tried.
tough to teach and do at the same. You're such a great teacher, and I know that's always, you know, that is the core to your mission. It's just tough to teach and do at the same time. And I just think there's this backlog of demand that whatever we can do to help tee that up for you, let's identify what that capacity looks like. And I'd like to just see those videos get, you know, sequenced and, you know, get as many done as we can.
Yep. And if you can help just choose, you know, 1, 2, or 3 that would be good to start with, and we just start planning those 3 right off the bat, and we can kind of assembly line them. So I know when the interview days are. It worked really slick, just one after the other come in the studio. That made my days so much easier that I didn't have to light. I had no microphone issues, no lighting issues. They just step in and sit down and start talking. That was huge. And shooting the B-roll, honestly, their backgrounds I shot with my cell phone. So it's just walk in, find a shot. I was in each store for half hour and then off to the next store. So it can be streamlined. So if you guys want to help me come up with the first 1, 2, or 3 that would help the business or you guys or something, we can start with that. And then once we do a few, I think we'll have a better, I don't really know of a cookie cutter way, but we'll have a better idea of how many we can do and how fast we can do them.
Maybe
So
could
you
I
would-
suggest,
Go
Dan,
ahead.
Annette speaking, Dan, maybe we can take a look over the list and create kind of a plan with who we've got. And then I can work with Paul to get the contacts made and pick some dates to video.
Yeah, I have a full spreadsheet of everybody who signed up with all the contact information. So I can definitely share that over there and start the video production side.
It's a little intimidating because he's forwarding all the video requests to me, and every day I'm just sitting here and watching them come flying into my computer going, okay, thanks, Dan. That's great. Yeah, sure. Great.
I'm not forwarding them, the system forwards them. So I have them all in one location. So I'll get all those compiled and we'll have a sit down and we'll get it all figured out.
Okay.
Paul, this is Jenny. Is there anybody in your high school class that you taught on media that could help out for the summer, and maybe the EDA could pay them an hourly wage?
Not that I know of at the moment.
Okay.
I tried many different ways, and it just, I don't know, to be as simple as I can. I need to find somebody with a passion for it, and that I have not tracked down yet. I can teach the buttons, but to get them to really care about it, that's a tougher find. And if they come and they really want to know how to do this, I can show it to them quite quickly and get them on their way. So, I mean, if you know of somebody that really, really wants to do this, that'd be great, because I can teach them.
This is Finneman. So you would take on a novice apprentice to just walk the walk with you for a little while. Then when you got comfortable assigning them something, because I
Technically,
find
that's
that
my
very
job.
intriguing,
Yeah.
and would make me feel like I can actually do something specific for the businesses.
Yep, absolutely. I could teach somebody to do the whole process of going to do these fairly quickly. You just have to kind of, I don't know, you got to have an open mind, and you got to listen, and you got to just kind of see. And once you kind of learn the basics of it, break the rules, go do it however you want. That's fine, but come in and just kind of respect the rules a little bit in the beginning. And I want to say, when I first started at the high school, I had a group of 10 kids that were just mind-bogglingly into it, and they all graduated. And I have yet to find that type of group again there. So, but yeah, I would love to take some people out as an apprentice or whatnot, and show them the ropes, and they can watch as long as they want. And if they get comfortable with it, they can start their project, and then I can follow them and just kind of give them pointers. And again, I mean, it doesn't take a very fast computer. I have extra computers at the school, at the station, if they want to edit too. So we have lots of great gear, and the part of my job description is to give it to them to use it. So.
Well, this is Finn again. I will talk to you on the side and see if I can become an apprentice.
Okay. And you have a very distinctive voice, so I do know it's you.
Can I make just a suggestion? First off, that video, I saw it last week, and I was just completely impressed about how professional it was done. And it just looked like it was a major network type production. So hats off to you, Paul, and that is, it's awesome. And Nanette doing the lining everyone up, and it just kind of hit me kind of in the stomach, just because I've seen what Alex and Ashley Big Apple have been through and trying to create different ways to get people in, and so it was just really well done. I'm wondering, since we have so many people that want to do this, if maybe first the next video would be more all encompassing, maybe something about how Forest Lake is reopening that would help out all businesses at one time that we definitely need, and then focus in on individuals. Either way, it's great, but maybe that's just a thought.
That kind of makes sense to me, just because of how many requests we got. Again, that makes that video is only worth something for a month or two, but it could be extremely valuable for a month or two. So, I mean, if that's going to help the businesses get people in them, that's what they need right now. And that's kind of what we're here for. So yeah, I think an all-encompassing is the best way, because there was just too many requests. And so we got to figure out, if you're doing an all-encompassing video, which businesses will that benefit and which ones won't, because I'm sure it won't benefit all of them to do that quick little 2 seconds of here's what I'm doing. But I think just to show people, here's what it's like coming into me right now, and here's what I'm doing for you, no matter what your thinking is, I think that could be very beneficial. Or you could just do a whole video on dining in the parking lot right now, because I think that's what everybody's going to be doing here in the next few weeks.
There will be some of that for sure. Maybe next steps is for Dan, Paul, Nan to kind of regroup on suggestions. It sounds like there's enthusiastic support from the EDA on the overall concept, and certainly as needs arise and we can help with resourcing in any way, I think you're going to find a very open audience in this group, and we think we'd just like to see as much covered and to make as most of this opportunity as we can, right?
And
well done.
Mark, you just want me to reach out to you when we're going to do something and let you know, and you can come tag along?
Oh, absolutely. I was going to reach out to you and try and set a schedule that fit whatever you were going to make your next step. So,
well, my next 2 weeks are basically school students. So, but after that, it will be whatever we're going to do here. So,
okay. Well, I'm wherever you want me, when you want me, because I'm enthusiastic. The most important thing I think in this whole story is reconnecting again, and somehow letting everyone know that our city and our businesses are active. So I think that's the most important thing to do at this moment.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, agree. Anything else on this item before we move on to the next? Great feedback, great work. It's great to see. And let's give some traction to the video that we have and get it out there in the social media channels and get that messaging out there. Next item on our agenda this evening is the digital downtown update. Dan, do you want to walk us through where we are?
Sure. President, members of the EDA, just want to give a quick update on the digital downtown efforts. Kind of segues into or dovetails off of this, the business video update. We did launch the digital downtown a little over 2 weeks ago. Currently, there are 30 businesses, give or take, on the site. One area where we're a little bit thin in businesses is restaurants. So if anybody knows of any restaurants that want to be listed, forward them my contact information and I'll get them on the site. So we are, in my estimation, a little bit light on restaurants. And again, if you remember, kind of the intent of the digital downtown was to create a one-stop shop for residents. We're kind of looking for up-to-date information on what's going on in the local business community. That seems to be happening. As of this afternoon, we're just south of 400 page views since it launched. So it may not sound like a lot, but for the city of Forest Lake, that's actually a decent amount of page views compared to other sites that I've launched. And we look at where those views come from. We are seeing kind of spikes in traffic to correspond to when social media outreach happens. So we will continue to do social media outreach to help market the site. But overall, so far to date, I've been pretty happy with the results of the digital downtown. One thing that I do want to do moving forward with it is I do want to split the retail and service into two categories. Right now, they're just combined into one. So you see a long list of businesses under one category. So just for ease of navigation, I will be splitting those off into a retail and a service category moving forward to help with navigation. But so far the results, I'm pretty pleased with what I'm seeing from both a business community response and also from a resident response as well. So it seems to be going as planned.
Any questions for Dan on the digital downtown? Certainly intended to be an ongoing asset here as businesses recover, and a place we hope to grow further in the future, and open to feedback on what else we can do to either market or change structure to make that the most effective as possible.
Erickson
Blake,
here.
go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, great work on this. I just was looking at it before our meeting started, and yeah, I love that it's getting some traction. And glad to hear that you're going to break out retail and service, because it's getting to be pretty long. How is it being marketed? Last week I went to a local restaurant that's not on here. They didn't know anything about it. Went to my chiropractor this morning. She didn't know anything about it. How can we drive more awareness? Because I'm doing follow-up emails to those businesses, but just in general, how is it getting pushed out, and what can we do to maybe light the fire a little bit?
It's currently being, from the resident side, promoted on the city's social media page. It's also on the city's website. If you go there on the homepage of the website, there's a card that has both information on where the site is located, and as well as how to sign up for it. So the link to the form, the sign up form, is there as well. We haven't, I know Nan released it out to the Chamber of Commerce list a couple of times. It was sent out and circulated through her contact list. I haven't gone through business to business at this point and asked anybody to sign up for it. It's been sort of, I'd say more of a passive. If they can find that, that particular link, they sign up for it through there, but have not done active, door-to-door promotion at this point.
Sounds good.
And I did email all the restaurants that I have contact for, but again, those are the folks that are kind of knee deep in trying to figure out life. And so do I expect that they're going to jump on it? That at first it surprised me that we just had such a few, but I think that hopefully as they're getting their ducks in a row for their next launch for next week, then we'll see a little bit more engagement on that.
Agree. Anything else on digital downtown? We see that needing to evolve. Let's keep those ideas coming forward, and that's a flexible platform, and we can flex it up or down as needed. So thanks for the update, Dan. Also want Dan to give us an update on the downtown committee, which everyone will remember we had teed up ready for kickoff right as COVID hit and right as the shutdown hit. So we, the very last minute, canceled that kickoff meeting and wanted Dan to give us an update on next steps there.
Correct. Yeah, this was, I believe it was one of the first meetings we canceled as a result of COVID. So we were ready to go, ready to launch this project back in March. Had to place it kind of in a holding pattern due to COVID-19. As of right now, we're looking at trying to re-engage this group in July of this year. That's going to be sort of pending the conditions, whether that's going to be in person or a Zoom or a combination of the two. We have to be cognizant of where we are in terms of how a group can meet. But we are looking at this point to re-engage the group in July. Even though it's been in a holding pattern, work has continued on the back end of the downtown committee. I have spoken with the downtown planner a couple of times since the pandemic hit. Initially, they were unable to do any types of travel due to COVID-19, but they have been able to slowly kind of re-engage on some travel. So they are actively right now compiling a scope of work for downtown planning. So we're starting to get some estimates or some scopes as to what the downtown planning process would look like. I'm also continuing to compile the background planning documents for the EDA to review. If you recall, kind of in advance of going into the downtown planning, we wanted to go through, spend a couple meetings and kind of get up to speed on historical efforts to date. We're still working to compile all of those documents And we'll have all those ready for the downtown committee to review. One thing that came up when I was having a conversation with the planner was, I mean, there's always that aspect of kind of due to the pandemic, is planning still a good idea? I mean, I think it's a very good question to ask. And, kind of where we kind of landed with is, if you look back, if planning was a good idea 4 months ago, it's still a good idea today. I don't think the fact that you have a well-planned downtown changes, the current conditions. We still need to have a good plan for our downtown. Another aspect that could come out of a well-planned downtown is that as you start to see, the possibility for federal funding releasing in the future for a recovery side, if you have projects that are at least started or at least kind of thought out, you can potentially jump ahead in some of those federal funding queues, for funding. So there's that kind of aspect as well. So I mean, I think it's still, downtown planning efforts are still a very, good exercise to go through to get our downtown planned. As we kind of get closer to that July timeframe, obviously we'll have to, everything at this point sort of penciled in. But as dates start to solidify, I'll re-engage with the EDA and let everybody know, as well as the downtown business groups that we had reached out to initially. And we'll get all those dates released. But I just kind of wanted to give everybody the update that the downtown committee is still being planned at this point. It's just, we're kind of taking it out of that holding pattern and kind of putting it more into an active topic of discussion moving forward.
We still have the invites, the fan group that was compiled and teed up, ready to go. Certainly, individual circumstances may have changed of people's ability to participate. There may be those that we didn't reach previously that are still interested. So as you all are having conversations with your network, there is still flexibility in that group. And so happy to alter whatever we need to do to have the best group that we can. And I do think it's important that we keep this teed up, but also want to be sensitive that June 1st is a big transition date for lots of businesses. We want to be sensitive to that. Want to be sensitive to, let's get a little bit of ground underneath us, and then as part of us just getting back to our regularly planned agenda items that were important. We'd like to see that, continue as much as possible, but also open to feedback from this group on thoughts. Any thoughts or feedback for Dan? All right. Okay. Sounds like we're on the same page. Dan, you also want to give a CBRE second quarter update?
I do. President, members of the EDA, I had a nice conversation with our listing agent today, Dan Peterson. Kind of wanted to get his input as to how COVID has impacted sort of commercial development and technology development. Basically, the site as of today still continues to see some pretty steady digital traffic. It's still being actively marketed and promoted by CBRE. Dan is getting the site out in front of the decision makers who are making decisions on data centers and other technology related businesses. There has been, there's been a slight impact due to COVID-19, commercially, in general. However, when you start to dive into the submarkets in the commercial development, office, warehouse, retail, data centers and technology is the least affected market segment. So it's still, while there has been a slight effect of it, but it's pretty a minimal effect that we're seeing due to COVID-19. Mostly where that effect is happening is the processes for development are taking just a little bit longer. So they're seeing some of the decision points. We're just seeing projects basically need to extend out 6 months or so. But according to Dan, there hasn't really been a lot of major disruptions to pipelines as a result of COVID-19. So planned projects are still proceeding as planned, with just, like I said, a little bit of delay, maybe with some of those decision-making points. One thing that he did mention was that kind of with everybody moving to a work from home environment, there has been an uptick in cloud-based activities. So there's been sort of an increase in demand for cloud-based services, just as some of these providers have to scale up their services to account for more of a work from home environment. As a result, that kind of translates back into an uptick in hyperscale activities. A lot of cloud-based services are based in hyperscale data centers. So they're seeing this uptick in cloud-based services. Kind of a, the lagging indicator will be the hyperscale activity will increase. Now, while that hasn't translated to a lot of new sites coming online right now, they're kind of seeing that that's potentially what that's going to be. So in the future, they're starting to see that hyperscale could potentially be sort of like the new, kind of a new or an expanding market in the tech sector. So he's kind of keeping an eye on that and watching that. One thing to kind of keep in mind, though, is that as you sort of look at the commercial development world and kind of everything is, by having this currently positioned for technology, we are in probably the best commercial position possible right now. That market, like I said, has probably the least amount of impact for it. So I think if you look at commercial development as a whole, we do have this site in the best possible position to bring a job center here to Forest Lakes. I think it's, at this point, really important to kind of stay the course on that, to kind of keep it in that position and do what we can to really to encourage bringing that job center here to Forest Lake. Another thing that's also happening kind of outside of the CBRE update is that we are also on the city side looking at getting the zoning change for this property. We went through the data center analysis for it. We did leave points on the table due to the fact that this was not in our zoning code pre-zoned for data center. It had to go through a rezoning process for that to happen. So we do have this on the Planning Commission's work plan. They have met kind of regarding the rezoning of this property. That being said, there's a bunch of recalculations that have to be done to a comprehensive plan as a result of rezoning this. Those calculations are currently happening. And the process looks like sometime this summer we'll get, kind of the first, step done in the rezoning. It will have to go through a review period. So we're looking at having it completed probably by the end of Q3 or Q4 of 2020. So we will have that zoning done. And I think one key thing to keep in mind is as you move forward with this, by having it zoned properly, I think you're going to start to see, if we have delays in projects now, that's going to kind of compress when a project comes forward and gets greenlit. They're going to want to go fast. They're going to want these things to go fast, and we don't want to hang up on a rezoning at that point. So by getting the zoning done now, if we get a site that's ready to go, we are out the door, out the gate. We are ready to go as fast as can to get those shovels into the ground. So it's a good exercise to go through, and we should have that done and back in Q3 or Q4. So kind of just key takeaways are, in terms of positioning, we're in a very good position from the market side of it at this point. Probably a minimal impact at this point from COVID-19. And I think with the rezoning, we're going to be even in an even better position come fall of 2020. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the where to update from CBRE.
This is Finn. The rezoning, does it become, it was intended partially, there was the mixed use attribute. Does it still remain flexible? Does it become really specific to tech and data centers? Or does it also open up to a variety of other commercial enterprises as a mixed use idea?
I believe we're adding a data center usage to a mixed use component. So we're going to put in there that it'll say, multiple use, but it'll specifically specify data centers in there. So we are going to make it more of a mixed use. So we're not just completely pigeonholing this for tech, but we're allowing that to be an allowable use on that parcel.
Actually, I believe it was zoned residential, and we're making it either a commercial or a mixed use and adding the data center in the definitions.
Yeah, it was, I think our comprehensive plan was pushing it toward the mixed use, whether that was ever fully approved or not. And whether our zoning caught up with that or not, I don't know. So that was the hope, to give it the flexibility to be more inclusive of residential on one end, if that was a possibility. But I know how we're looking at that site. It's a one singular site, and we'll see what happens with it. I just want to be sure there's flexibility.
And also, so a couple of things. So the comprehensive plan was approved. The zoning changes related to the comprehensive plan are the next steps, and that's what we're in now. Also, I think the thought is let's get the zoning to what we need it to be before there's a project. Otherwise, that process becomes very project specific, and I don't think that's our goal. I think we want to set the zoning, what's our overall use, and then alongside that, be recruiting projects that fit that rather than waiting till we've got something on the line and have that deal be dependent on getting the zoning switched.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah. Other thoughts, questions related to the CBRE? All right. We've got a few minutes left before we've got a hard stop here at 7 o'clock for the city council meeting, but we do have a few minutes left for any Chamber of Commerce updates. Nan, we've talked a lot about chamber items so far throughout the meeting. Anything new that you would like to talk about that we haven't already covered this evening?
Yeah, first, again, thank you, Paul, for creating the vision. And we are continuing to do advocacy and working towards recovery development now. So we've seen a switch, or that's what I've done, created a switch so that we're much more around recovery. And so some of the topics that we're going to be bringing to the business community, we just had a session on labor law and employment. Again, that continual work from home, marketing now in this time frame. We have one on cash flow, innovation. And so those are just some of the topics that we'll continue to lead with to encourage our business community. Aside from that, I'm looking forward to planning a golf tournament some way, somehow. So those are the main things right at the moment.
Sounds fantastic. Any questions for Nan? Nan, I'll just say thank you to you and to the chamber for all of the work that you've done on these business meetings. It's just, you've been just fantastic content has been brought forward. And if anybody doesn't know, that network has now been expanded. So there's a Forest Lake specific meeting one time a week. And then the second meeting of the week is broader with the overall statewide chamber network. And so there's just some great content and some great information sharing happening. So whatever we can do as a city and EDA to continue to support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Eng, from a Washington County perspective, any updates for us this evening?
Yes, thank you, President Bain and members. Good evening. I'll just keep it brief. I wanted to let you know that last week, the CDA board approved a resolution in support of a brand new program that will be available for the 7-county metro area called Business for Business. And the way it works is it's actually going to be 100% corporate funded or business funded. And it's a way for businesses that are doing really well to help those businesses that are struggling right now. And so it'd be a grant program, and businesses through the Open to Business program could apply for a grant. If a company was experiencing technical difficulties with something like an architect needing to design some social distancing in their interior space, this would also allow for those folks that have that expertise to be able to donate time, and that would be all coordinated through the Open to Business program. Same with accounting. If a company was having a hard time with cash management or determining the break-even point to see if they should even open again and at what point should they open, those services could be available as well through Open to Business. The program will kick off late next week, and we are working really hard right now on the marketing piece for it, getting the promotional up and running. We'll be certainly working with Nan and the other chambers in the county and then across the region. And again, it's 100% corporate funded by the companies that are doing really well, who really want to help those smaller companies that are struggling right now. So pretty excited about the opportunity to kick this program off sometime in the next week or so, and I'll certainly keep you posted. Thank you.
First, take myself off of mute. Thank you, Chris. I'll also pass along my thanks to both you and Tyler and the Open to Business program for everything, all the resources you've been bringing to the table in the last several, well, now months. It's just been a great partnership, and it's been great to have the two of you on those business calls and just have that expertise available. So much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Any questions for Chris this evening or follow-up items? All right. We do have a few minutes before the top of the hour. We've covered a lot tonight, and I just want to open up for any open questions, any other additional dialogue, things we'd like to see prioritized from an agenda perspective. And I think, Finn, you've got something. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I raised my hand just right, I guess. Just a thought to bring forward again, because we lose track of it. We have a budget for the EDA through the year, and we pretty well designate that. We also have a residual fund that sits up there in the 150, if I'm guessing right, category. And these are unique times, and I just, to put it on the surface, maybe not be so timid about how we might be able to help or work those funds, because now is as unique as any time we'd have a business come in and we'd want to support that business. We have lots of diverse businesses to support right now. And so just be mindful of that additional monies.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I think that's great for all of us to be keeping in mind of how do we use all of our resources we have available to be the most impactful as possible. So yes, absolutely. And, I think, budgeting for all parts of the city is going to look different for 2021 than what it has for this last year. And I think the EDA is, that's part of it for the EDA as well, is how do we continue to use our resources to the greatest extent possible. Other questions, thoughts, other topics we should bring up and discuss here before we adjourn?
All right.
Yeah, Blake, go ahead.
I just have a couple things. So I had a restaurateur reach out to me, a little bit surprised of having to fill out a application to open a patio when he currently already has a patio in place. And so how is that being, how are we doing this, or how's the city handling that, and what's the reason for that? I can see maybe if someone wants to open one up in a parking lot, and I understand maybe the Legion is looking for something for some music, and I think that we need to continue to do what we can to help these, especially these restaurants. I don't know that, I mean, these folks have been hit, and the theaters and the health clubs and that, but some people got the PPP loans, but they got to bring people back, so they can't even use that. It's not going to be forgiven. They're going to have to pay them back. At one point we talked about maybe is there some liquor license things that can be done with the city. I know some cities such as Ham Lake and Alexandria have put something forward saying that they're open for business and maybe trying to be a little more lenient than what the governor is doing, and what I don't know if the city's looked into any of that, but I feel like I'm not going to say we're lacking in some of these things, and maybe it's just not being projected to the EDA in the community. But I've had 2 restaurant people come to me with some concerns, and I feel like somewhat out of the loop, and that's on me because I could reach out and ask those questions. I'm sure, I'd be told what's going on, but I'm just a little concerned about that, and maybe some of the things that we could be doing better or make some things streamlined better for these restaurants to get up and running. One of them being one of the largest restaurants in downtown is actually, to be quite honest with you, and I don't think he didn't mind me sharing that, he's debating whether he's even going to open for the patio season and wait until it fully opens, because these guys they just can't make the money. Weather dependent, day like today, how can you bring in staff and food and all the rest of that and expect that you're going to have a even somewhat normal business?
Well,
So where there's, Patrick, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know what restaurants that had a patio would have had to fill out an application. The ones that we've gotten that have patios want to extend their patios to a larger spot. What we're doing is we're being very flexible and very accommodating when we have a restaurant, the American Legion, the VFW, whoever, to come in, and we're going to try to support them as much as we can to make that possible. Each application is just judged case by case, because we do have to, the governor has put some restrictions on it, and I understand the need to go to outside patio, but we want to make sure that those patios are safe, particularly if they end up in parking lots or in the public right of way. So we're going to try to assist them with that. The other things we've been looking at is the liquor licensing and whether we credit people for the time lost or not. That's been a little bit hampered by, who knows what, we had no idea when we were going to open it, so we didn't know what kind of refund we might look at or what credit. So that's going to start up. But what I do encourage you all is that if there's a restaurant or an organization that wants to have a patio, have them call us, have them talk to us in person. So far we've had, I think, 4 people applications for patios and things like that. It's on the website. It's clearly on our website. So to look at, and just send them our way. We'll do whatever we can to get them open and going.
I think some of the confusion is what the purpose of the application is that we're trying to do. We're not trying to require applications for businesses that want to have their patio as they always have. It's intended to just be a collection tool for those businesses that are asking for what would typically be a zoning restriction or a change and for us to fast track those requests so that they're able to operate in a way that we previously wouldn't allow, whether that's, as Patrick said, in a right of way or in a, in a parking lot. The goal is to open up as they always have, no application needed. This is intended to just be an assistance tool to break down some of those barriers. And for us as a city to streamline that through EMS, through the emergency management services, rather than going through the typical planning commission zoning process, which you all know can be quite lengthy and is not helpful at all in this situation. So now it also happened very quickly. So the governor's orders came out on Wednesday. We had an application live on Thursday. There, in that speed, there maybe was some miscommunication on who that application was intended for, but it really is intended to be a tool of how can we help you amend your footprint or amend your service restrictions so that we can accommodate some, businesses opening back up. I will say we've had a tremendous pressure to pass an ordinance like some of our other municipalities have about saying that we are open for business. And I have to tell you that those are not we can pass all of those ordinances that we want and it doesn't change the governor's restriction. And I think that there is so much confusion in this time that anything that we do that adds to confusion, I'm just really hesitant to do because me saying or the city council saying that we are open to business doesn't change the governor's orders and doesn't change, we just don't have that authority to open up outside of those governor's restrictions. And so there's some protest votes out there and some city councils have taken that opportunity to have that protest vote, but it is just a protest vote. It doesn't change the operating guidelines of those businesses. And I get nervous on us pretending to have authority that we don't have.
You're right, Mara. It doesn't change anything. And I'm glad we had that discussion earlier, you and I, that my vote would be not to go there because there's really no reason to do that because of the confusion thing.
But if it does mean that we can let you expand your patio and make good use of your parking lot, by all means, let's be creative and let's maximize whatever we can do and cut down those city barriers for those guidelines as they are out there. We've got, I had an inquiry from a hair place wondering if they could do, cuts from a tent and expand their capacity and put a tent in their yard or in their parking lot. We'll entertain that application. Let's have that conversation and let's expedite those so that they're able to expand that capacity if possible. But again, I can appreciate how, without that being teed up, the communication we may have missed the mark on the communication. So help us get back to what was the intent, and it's intended to be a tool and not another piece of red tape. It's supposed to actually cut down on that red tape.
If I could add too, there's an alcohol service component of that application that we wanted to get out as quickly as possible for those restaurants that don't have a patio, but do serve alcohol with dinner. And so that was a big component to get that out for them so that they can do food and liquor service outside of their storefront in that patio or right away or wherever it is that they could possibly get seating. So it was to expedite that as quickly as possible for those that don't have a patio. So when the application went out, there was a mailing list that I created based off of those that have a liquor license. So anybody that has an active liquor license with the city got that application. And we actually, I think today have received, I believe I got several this afternoon too, so there might be 7 of them that have come in now so far. 6 or 7 that have come in so far.
Help us on that messaging and getting that message back out to their business owners on what the intent was. And I know that we're the government, we're here to help. It's not always ring very true, but that really is the intent, is to ease restrictions and to be more favorable than to be more restrictive. But can appreciate how we may have missed the communication mark on that.
Yeah, there's no fee. There was no fee involved. It was just a way to get something for them as quickly as possible so that they could start food and alcohol service.
So we are a little bit past the top of the hour. This is an important conversation, though, so happy to extend if there's other questions, follow-ups, if there's information staff can provide, happy to gather that. All right, not seeing anything, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and then we do need to do a roll call vote to adjourn. So if you'll hang on here for a few more minutes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I heard a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Finneman. Perfect. Karen, can we have a roll call, please?
Who made the motion, please?
I did on top of somebody else.
Jenny.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Roberts?
I think he dropped.
Commissioner Huntash?
You're on mute.
Aye.
Commissioner Husnick?
Aye.
Commissioner Finneman?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorge?
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson?
Aye.
President Bain?
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Be well.